Looking through my early childhood pictures before the age of 3 consists of just 2. I lived alone with my mom in Remedios, a small city in the heart of the Panamanian interior. Of course, I don't recall how life was back then, but as my mom tells me, life was lived day by day, waiting for that something to happen to change your life. She had been a teacher in an elementary school making $150 a month. I guess that was enough to support my mom and I. My grandfather was a civil engineer with a 6th grade education, but he didn't make the title of engineer easy. He worked as an apprentice for more than 30 years before he could be considered a project manager. He, along with my mom's brothers and sisters, lived in the capital, Panama City, trying to make a living as best they could on a minimum education. Life for me was looking like it was going to be the same as it was for everyone else in my family before me. And it probably would have if it weren't for the pivotal year of 1989. That year, my mom had gotten a transfer job to teach in Panama City, which was the break she was looking for to move out of the countryside. The year was almost at an end when one December night, all of Panama was awakened by the thunderous sounds of U.S. bombs. It was a surprise invasion, codenamed Operation Just Cause, to take out Panama's military leader, Manuel Noriega. Noriega had supplied information to the CIA from the late 1950s to 1980s, but fell out of favor when he shifted many of his government's resources to drug smuggling and verbally declared war on the U.S. for its meddling in his affairs. Even though Just Cause only lasted for the most part 3 days, according to official Pentagon figures, 516 Panamanians were killed during the invasion. An internal army memo estimated the number at 1,000. But according to the documentary The Panama Deception, some researchers put the death toll between 3,000 and 4,000 civilians. The U.S. had many military bases in Panama since World War I to protect the canal after its construction, so the U.S. was pretty much prepared for the street riots and protests orchestrated by Noriega against U.S. personnel prior to Just Cause. Still, more was needed to get rid of him. The operation brought in 6,000 troops to equal a total of 26,000 soldiers that were already stationed there. Now, one of those 6,000 soldiers that arrived was the man that would change our lives forever. My mom had met him a couple days before the invasion, and a year after was pregnant with her second child. We moved into the Air Force Base together, and before you knew it, we were a family. Life in the Air Force means your family gets reassigned about every 2 years. So by 1993, we were on our way to our next assignment in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. To sum up the next 8 years, we moved to Maryland, then back to Panama until January of 2000, when the canal was given back to the Panamanians and all military personnel had to leave, bringing us to our present stay in California. Even after leaving Panama, growing up was not easy, as we faced separation not only from family on my mom's side for marrying a gringo, but also on my dad's side because of the fact that he had not married a white American woman. In fact, we've only met with my dad's parents 4 times in a total of 16 years. Living in the U.S. with no family but our own was challenging, but didn't stop my parents' goal of giving my brother and I the best life possible. My dad had retired from the Air Force, and for the first time we were on our own, not depending on military housing. Soon after, we bought our first house. After 6 years in the U.S., it is hard to imagine how life would have been if I had stayed in Panama. My cousins are about my age and they recently graduated high school. They went on to trade school to study computer science, but have yet to find a job. Contrary to the U.S.'s belief that by installing a democracy into a country would be enough to raise it from its economic stagnation, jobs are harder and harder to come about in Panama, even after the departure of the U.S. military, leaving only the well-connected to get the high-paying jobs. So what was a benefit for me having U.S. intervention was in no way helpful to my fellow Panamanians. My limitations, on the other hand, are only the ones I put on myself. So that's the end of my digital story. Who would have known that if it weren't for the strong will of both of my parents, I would have ever had the opportunity to...
from Jamaica to the world.